Welcome back to This Is Why We Watch Movies. I'm Brian.
And I'm Landon.
And today we have an episode for you.
Yes, we do.
So it has been Valentine's weekend just now.
Yes.
And we have a long-standing tradition of celebrating pal-entines, even before the show
Absolutely.
was a thing. So, actually, I guess pal-entines did get mentioned last year on the show, but we didn't review the film. It was When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
Played at the Regal. And the year before that, which I mentioned recently in the TikTok comments, we went and saw Titanic in 3D for the 25th anniversary re-release. So we are fully bought in on pal-entines. It's the best day of the year.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, with me having a partner this year, she was like, you have to spend it with me.
Yeah.
And it's Valentine's. And I was like, no, because pal-entines. So we did pal-entines a day early.
So lame.
It's okay.
But we did have an extra guest this year, which was cool. We like that.
Yes. My roommate, his former roommate, joined us for the film. So shout out, Alex.
We know you're listening.
We know you're here. It was fantastic watching with you. But we got to go see the, Valentine's event of the year, which was Captain America: Brave New World.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of a better Valentine's film than this.
I think I can think of quite a few.
But let's not get into spoilers for the review yet.
Yeah.
But so Brave New World, I thought that was interesting. In the opening title card, it's not called Captain America.
Yeah.
It's just Brave New World. So yeah, as always, Landon has probably got the synopsis over there, and if he doesn't, he's fired.
I do.
Good.
Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, finds himself in the middle of an international incident and must discover the motive behind a nefarious global plan.
That sounds like a really cool movie.
It does, dude.
I love that description. If only it were, I guess it is accurate, but it's like
it's leaving a lot out.
It's leaving so much out.
Yeah.
Both for good and for bad.
Sure.
So yeah, what's your first pro?
I really do like Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. I do think, you know what, I'm not going to bring that up yet because that'll be kind of a con thing, but I particularly like his relationship with Isaiah Bradley. I think that worked really well for me. One of the few things that I think did ground this in any way, which it desperately needed.
Right. I think that that's actually my first pro, is that Captain America is Captain America in this. I love Anthony Mackie in the role. It does kind of annoy me when folks still refer to him as Falcon, because he's not. He is Cap.
Yep.
He is #my Cap. I don't know. No Cap. And I don't know. I think that the film really uses his fighting style in a very interesting way.
Oh, okay.
So something that I think was a bit of a downer on the TV show Falcon and Winter Soldier is that we don't get to see a ton of him as Captain America until the last episode.
That's the thing.
That's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so we get this little glimpse of what his fighting style would be as Cap, and now we got it. We get to see it. I think it's really cool, combining Flight and the Shield and everything. I enjoyed seeing him as Cap in action.
It was so hit or miss for me. It's kind of the problem.
It depends on the scene, but
yeah, I don't know. There were moments, let's talk about the opening fight scenes specifically.
Yeah.
I think there's moments of it that I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I like what they're doing here. And then
your mic's a bit off axis. You might want to.
Oh, okay, hold on.
No, you just tilt it upwards like this, and then it won't. When you look away, it won't be bad.
There we go.
There you go.
But no, I think that particularly the opening fight sequence, there's moments where I'm like, this is really cool, and then other moments where I'm like, this is just kind of dull.
Yeah. It does depend heavily on the moment. I think part of that goes into cinematography being a Marvel style.
Yeah.
I would say that's more of where that teeters, but just in general, in terms of his fighting style and his approach to leadership and being Captain America, very good.
I agree.
I think that's the most positive thing about the film.
Yeah, Sam Wilson. Yeah,
Sam Wilson.
He is the positive. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm excited to see him continue on as Cap as well.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be fun in future films.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your next one, if there is one?
Well, I was going to let you go next.
Excellent. That was my first one.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few more.
You go ahead.
So I think that the inclusion of past plot lines from Marvel movies is a good thing. I think that this place we're in an era where Marvel is post being sub-series, right? So like Captain America previously existed as its own thing, Spider-Man its own thing, yada yada. But now it's like the movies have bled together where it's almost like Marvel team up, where it's like something is always going to like bring it together, and we get these weird combinations that I would have never expected when I first got into the series or the series first started. And I don't think that the filmmakers did either, but that's a different story entirely. So I think putting it within the context of the Incredible Hulk universe, it sucks that Hulk's not in the film, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I think that continuing the story that has been left open for a very long time from Incredible Hulk was a positive thing for me, and also even continuing on with Eternals and addressing stuff that's happened in the MCU, because everything, even though it's been a team up, it has felt siloed since No Way Home, where it's like everything has just kind of existed in tandem, but there's not been anything pointing it towards something. And so even though this film perhaps has its flaws, I do think that it points towards something, and I don't know what that is yet, but it's like I'm starting to see it, and I like that about it.
Okay.
And then finally, I think that those few moments of the fights that you were mentioning, there's a couple of them I can think of. They're like really heavier hitting fights. There's also the really weighty CGI stuff in this.
Yeah.
But there are moments of hand-to-hand combat that are absolutely great.
Which I think we talked about this after the movie. It was like people complained about the CGI. It's like, I'm going to be honest, it looks like an MCU film.
It looks like everything else. I don't know what you're on about.
It's like, yeah, I mean, sure, it's CGI. It's going to have issues. I just think it's weird that like I think people hear things once and then they like latch onto it.
Right.
And I went in and I didn't know anything about it. And I watched and I go, yeah, CGI is a little shoddy, but when is it not in the MCU at this point?
And I would not even say it was shoddy the whole time. It's only specific moments.
Yeah.
And I expect that from all of them.
Yeah.
This has been a case not recently either. Like go back and watch any film in the series, and there has always been moments like this.
Go watch the first Captain America film.
Go watch the second one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go look at all of them. But like,
go watch the third one. It's great.
There's a specific scene in the first Captain America film. I don't even know how to describe what I was watching, but it is it's a scene where he's like running and there's a plane as well.
When he jumps onto the plane.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It is like 1994 CGI, dude. It is crazy, but that's not the point. Who cares?
I was speaking of 1994, a year after that, 1995, there's the opening scene from GoldenEye, and 007 jumps off of a runway on a bike and into a plane. And apparently they shot this stunt for real. It's awesome.
Whoa.
I don't really like GoldenEye, but like that part's cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's about the positives I have, is like really like Anthony Mackie. I like that it firmly fits within the MCU as being like a piece of the story. And it's not siloed and it's not its own thing, which is how so much of Phase 4 and 5 has felt.
Okay. I'll respond to that in a minute. I do have one more thing to say though.
Okay.
I think as a pro, I do think Harrison Ford is very good as Thunderbolt Ross.
Yes.
Or I guess in this they call him Thaddeus the whole time, but we know who he is.
I call him Thaddy.
Okay. All right. I gotta go. But no, I liked him a lot in this. I think he's doing his thing. Like he's not bringing much new, but he's Harrison Ford, so it's always a good time to see him on screen.
Harrison Ford is going to show up and get paid, and he's going to do a good job in the process, and that's been his shtick for years now.
Yep.
It's not that he doesn't care; it's just that he's like, it's a movie. I'm going to show up and do the silly thing and move on.
Yeah, 100%.
So I liked him as Thaddy quite a lot, and I thought that was not an issue with the film. No,
not at all.
But there are issues.
Yeah.
There's a few.
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
I like opposite of you. I feel like its reliance on the MCU in this is a detriment. Because the stuff that really worked for me was the stuff that you could take out of the MCU.
Sure.
And I don't feel like they leaned enough into the spy thriller, like the espionage genre, like they could have and they should have.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Partially,
but my big issue is that
partially.
Okay, but no, to me, I think that this can't stand on its own, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that is, I think the other two, like the first two Captain America films, can 100% stand on their own. And I find this as a negative. You clearly had a different take on it, because I think that like they should all like cohesively work together, but also be able to stand on their own and work independently of each other.
Sure.
Which has been a massive problem of the last 5 years now. 4 years of content that we've gotten is like it is all like reliant on everything else.
See, and I don't feel like a lot of it has been, because while it's like, oh yeah, this is a sequel or something, like the Marvels is not related to anything else in the series. It's siloed. Eternals is siloed.
Eternals, I agree with. The Marvels, I do not.
The Marvels has like bits with other stuff, but it works as its own thing. Like, and so I think that where you're talking about
works is, debatable.
I don't really consider it essential to the whole plot. Is kind of what I'm getting at.
Sure.
So I think what's interesting is that the complaint that you have with this movie being kind of too reliant on what came before is actually the biggest complaint I remember folks having about the Avengers the summer it came out. Was like, oh, there's not really anything happening in the story. It's just this one thing that you have to watch all this other crap for. And there was that cynicism. And I think that the Avengers has grown on people as a film over time.
I would disagree, though, that you needed the other context in order to understand Avengers.
I think you needed to see Captain America and Thor specifically, like to like really like vibe with it.
I think that they like hint at things moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think you can drop somebody in with Avengers by itself, and nobody would be like, "Oh, I don't get the film." I think people would understand.
Well, yes, but I'm also saying that the plot itself suffers somewhat of that in the Avengers because it is so simplistic.
Sure.
Yeah.
But also it's like it also depends film to film as well, though.
Right.
Because like look at Infinity War and Endgame. Like that's all reliant on things moving forward, but those are great films.
The way I see it is that the core of the MCU is 5 films. And I think that we do agree on that. So for me, it's the Avengers.
Okay.
It's Captain America. I guess it's 6 films. It's Captain America 2.
Yep.
It's Infinity. It unfortunately has to do with Age of Ultron. Yeah. And then you have Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. And it's kind of like a 6-film series like that. And that could be it. Like, if you just watch that as its own self-contained thing. You don't even need the first Captain America. You could add it in and have a nice 7-film saga, and you're done. And that's the beauty of it, is that like you could watch it as a Guardians of the Galaxy thing and get a story from them. So yes, I agree with you on that. But I'm just saying, I think that like it's nice to finally see stuff instead of it just feel like all these separate things that aren't working together at all. Now, I don't think it does it well, but I'm happy to see it trying. And that's kind of where that pro comes from.
Maybe that is my problem, is that it's not working well.
Yes. I agree with you that it's not working well, but I'm happy that it's like trying to do something.
I also think that this is a spoiler. So I guess we'll just say spoilers
we're in cons now. So if you don't want to have this spoiled, you can look at the timestamps and move forward to the next segment.
The post-credit scene was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I agree.
What was that?
The post-credit scene.
And this is not me being like a negative of the film in general. I'm just more curious. I was just wondering, because that was what like struck me as we were leaving. I was like, okay, that was stupid.
Like it basically told us something that Doctor Strange 2 told us. It told us something that Spider-Man No Way Home told us.
It's what they've been telling us for the last 3 years.
What
3.5
Loki
years.
told us. Yeah. Like I'm glad that you're now officially saying it more directly, but it's like, if that's the lead-in scene to Secret Wars or Doomsday, I'm kind of concerned.
Because somebody put this on Twitter, and I think it's so true. It's like what if somebody at the end of Avengers Infinity War, it was just somebody in a cell, and they walked over to him, and they were like, "A big purple guy's coming," like. Instead of what we got, which was really cool, which was like, fine, I'll do it myself, which is a really cool, like, that's a cool moment.
Yeah.
But no, this was just weird. Anyway, back to the actual film, because I think we haven't even really scratched the surface of issues with it.
I think the issues with it are, to me, it's not really the story or the setting or any of that. It's more so that it has a tonal dissonance through the whole thing. which you can attribute to reshoots, but the crew has claimed that the reshoots are not as prevalent as people were claiming in the media. I would argue it's different. I think this is the most tonally dissonant superhero film since Justice League. It bounces back and forth between vibes, and it never really finds any footing on what it wants to be. Because while you have something like the Marvels, which is quite kooky, it knows it wants to be kooky, and it doesn't attempt to be anything else. This tries to be a spy thriller, but also inserts humor that doesn't work. And the character interactions, especially towards the beginning of the film in the first act, make it seem like it's dragging on.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of really atrocious dialogue and not funny jokes that are happening. And they even kind of center around with Thaddy, where he's like, I'm a different man.
Yeah.
It's like there's some meta humor involved, which is very unnecessary for the type of film that this is. So I think that the biggest issue is tonal dissonance.
That I would agree with that. I also think that there's a real lack of like, I want to say Bucky. I want to say there's a real lack of Bucky, because I think that what those two bring together, especially like when you watch like Falcon and Winter Soldier, the TV show, that is why it works.
Yes.
Those two together are why it's like they have a chemistry. And like the one scene that they're in here together, even then it didn't really work for me, mostly because I think it was just like, again, it was tonally weird.
I feel like that's probably something that came up in a reshoot.
I would probably agree.
I would assume people testing the film were like, "Where's Bucky?" And then they were like, "Let's fix it."
Yeah, they're like, "Oh yeah, now he's running for office." Which
I liked seeing him though.
Yeah,
but him running for office does not make sense.
No,
because the film that's coming out in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, and everything that's come before, it's like even if it's like in universe, it makes no sense,
right?
Because it's like, okay, this guy literally, what it wasn't. I understand he was mind controlled, but he did kill quite a few people.
Yes.
So.
No, it was very problematic. I think that, I feel like we were robbed of like Sebastian Stan in this film. And then there's also other actors that I think were really robbed of screen time because of how they approach the villains. And I am breaking much more into spoilers now, so skip ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. But I think that like the way that they handled villains in the marketing is probably my biggest issue with the film.
Yeah.
Because they show us Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, and they're like, this is the big villain, and then they tease Hulk.
Yep.
Red Hulk. But Red Hulk's like so prevalent in the marketing.
Yeah.
And it equates to like maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end.
It's crazy because like...
And Sidewinder's not even the villain.
Yeah. But it's crazy because all of the stuff you see from Red Hulk in the trailer is just what it is.
Yes. There's nothing more.
No. And the problem is that like in the film, it's played as this big reveal.
Right. And I think it would have played so much better for me if I hadn't known.
Yeah.
Like Red Hulk being in the marketing kind of spoiled the movie. And I get that they were trying to hide that the actual villain is Tim Blake Nelson's the leader from Incredible Hulk, and that he's been poisoning Thaddeus to be Red Hulk this whole time. I didn't mind that. I like that they brought him back. It's just more of like they were afraid to market that specifically because I think of the sour taste of Incredible Hulk on people's minds. I get that.
When you look at the era of the MCU that it's in, it's not much worse.
No. Like, I have long stood on the hill. I think Iron Man 2 is worse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, Incredible Hulk's not nearly as bad as most people make it out to be.
I don't like it, but...
I don't like it either, but I think that it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it feels very much so like everything else at that time period.
It's such a weird film, too, because it's like... I think... And this is not a review of The Incredible Hulk, but to me, I always find it so annoying, especially it happened in Iron Man too, because honestly to me, and I know people will disagree, but the way I see it is to me, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, to me, start and end in the same place.
Yeah.
I don't feel Tony's redemption arc in Iron Man like most people do. I'm sorry. The only thing that changes is that he's not selling weapons anymore. He's still the same arrogant like guy that he was at the beginning.
Sure.
And to me, there's no character arc for me for either of those first two films in the MCU. And again, I'm in the minority on the Iron Man opinion, so I get it, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. I think that There is one, but it's so small and it's undone immediately in the next two films.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because they didn't really know what else to do with him, so they just kept resetting him. And it's almost like a sitcom almost.
It is.
Where it's like, let's forget what we learned last time. And he doesn't really have any character growth until the end of the Avengers.
Yep.
And I think that post the Avengers, Iron Man is one of my favorite characters in the series.
I agree.
You can see the growth that he's had since Iron Man and Iron Man 2, but those particular films don't show it. And so I agree with you. Although Iron Man has a very special place in my heart. The film.
It's not for me.
I don't know. But getting back to the film we're actually talking about.
Yeah, sorry. This is tangent episode.
Tangent episode. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So not enough Giancarlo Esposito. Red Hulk was in marketing. Then I think the big thing with tonal dissonance is that it wants so hard to be a spy thriller. I would argue that the trailer we got for this, with the redactions and stuff, is one of the best trailers I've seen in a long time. I think that whoever cut that, like, knew what they were doing. They hid the bad parts of the film, or some of them, and they made it look very interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't doubt that stuff was in there. I've heard a good portion of the film's being cut out, similar to Batman versus Superman, so it would play more. I don't know if that is true. I do wonder if, like, having more would have helped, or maybe the specific things that were cut were helpful. But it doesn't feel like it would have been.
No, I don't think it was going to fix anything.
Like, but again, it's like if the tone of all those things were consistent, I think that would help. But I doubt it, because we're talking about stuff that was
shocking. Cut. Yeah,
yeah.
I would be shocked if it, like, you put it back in and then it feels more cohesive. I don't think that would happen, but
I do think that the second act is very strong. So everything
I kind of agree.
After the White House attack that happens through to like when the leader breaks out, I think that was a very strong portion of the film.
But yeah, because to me that's the part that I was like, okay, this feels like Captain America to me.
Right. Everything before that was like, this is kind of cheesy, and everything after that I was like, this just feels like a Marvel movie.
Yeah. No, it collapses in the third act. It's pretty rough.
And it has cool moments.
Sure.
I actually kind of enjoy the Red Hulk fight. It's just more of like, it's more of the same.
Yeah,
It's more of like, if you want to sit there and watch it, it's great. But if you're like kind of agnostic towards CGI brawls, it's not even the best Hulk fight in the MCU.
No.
I think Hulkbuster from Age of Ultron still stands up there for me.
It's a good one.
Which of course, different Hulk. But on that note, I don't know. I don't think it's like as bad of a movie as most of Letterboxd or the internet is making it out to be, or at least it's not bad for the reasons that they're saying.
Sure.
Because I've hardly heard anyone talk about tonal dissonance or like the story. I've only heard people talking about technical stuff.
I'm going to say something.
Sure.
And this is, I don't know how I haven't. I've seen no reviews of this film.
That's incredible to me.
Like, even on Twitter, it's like, what I see from it is like maybe a discussion around what's happening in the film, but I haven't seen any kind of review. So genuinely don't know what people are saying about it.
Most of them are like the same things you'd expect. It's very similar, I think, to The Rise of Skywalker. It's sitting about the same Rotten Tomatoes score, and I think it's very
This is much better than that.
It's like, back and forth between, was it good or was it not? I'm in the camp. I think Rise of Skywalker was better, but I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
This one has less rewatchability for me, but anyways.
I mean, I'm somebody who has not seen Rise of Skywalker since the theater.
Yeah.
I watched it quite a few times in the theater because I think I was trying to convince myself that it was good. But I've had zero desire to rewatch it since.
And that's fair. I kind of fall into the camp that the parts of that movie that I really liked, I liked a lot. But there are moments that I do find to be mid. The rating dropped the most recent time I watched it on Letterboxd, but not by much. And I think this one is still kind of lower. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's not a great movie, but the issues aren't the CGI. They're not Harrison Ford. They're not Anthony Mackie. It is literally pacing and writing.
Yeah. It comes down to writing.
Yeah. It's the writing. And I think I pointed this out to you in the credits. There's like 6 screenwriters credited on this.
Yeah.
And that's how you know. It's just like, there's not one singular vision that's like throwing into that. And I guess that's kind of a crazy complaint because when you look at something like Spider-Man Homecoming, there's 5 writers credited.
Yeah.
But it still feels like a cohesive story. And this just doesn't. But yeah, I just want to imagine a world where we got a beefier and more tight version of Falcon and Winter Soldier released into theaters, and that was Captain America 4.
Actually, this is something else. Is to me, it feels like we were, again, spinning wheels a little bit with character arcs.
This is true.
Because we just watched a show about Sam not feeling like he was enough to be Captain America, right?
Yes.
And it was a long journey for him to accept the shield finally, and now we're still kind of doing the same song and dance. And I'm assuming that's just for the people who didn't watch the other show.
That's exactly what it's there for. Because in my talk with Alex on the way back home, he actually really liked Sam's arc in this and was like, that was interesting to see. And my first question to him was, did you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier? No.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, yeah.
Because that's why...
it does feel like, and that's why the first act drags on.
Yeah.
It's because they're just reiterating everything from
they're
that.
Like, here you go.
But also, he moved through it, so there's no reason for him to still feel that way.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's like, I can understand it being in moments, but it's literally the same beats that we got. Like, him and Bucky had the same conversation, I feel like.
Yeah.
In Falcon and Winter Soldier.
They did.
And it was a little bit frustrating to watch just for that reason.
That is, again, comes back to Bucky being gone as a big complaint.
Yeah. And I liked Joaquin Torres. I think
I was more mid on Joaquin.
I think that they work together as a group. But he's not somebody who I'm like, I need to see more of. But in the context of the film, I was like, okay.
I don't think that they have like as strong of a buddy dynamic as the Bucky and Sam. So that's kind of my issue with it.
I think that was, I think he was a character that they decided they were like, okay, let's introduce this character now. So that way we still have the buddy thing without having to pay Sebastian Stan.
Yes. Which they're still having to pay Sebastian Stan.
Which ended up
Thunderbolts. Which I'm curious to see what happens with that. I do wonder if they're hiding Red Hulk from the Thunderbolts trailer, which would be kind of weird. But
I would be shocked.
You never know. I mean, they are called the Thunderbolts.
That is true. Maybe.
Like, it would make sense for Harrison Ford to at least cameo.
Sure.
But we'll have to find out in May.
I think the Thunderbolts trailer actually looks kind of interesting.
It does. It looks better than this.
Yeah, but I think that like that cast though is outstanding.
The stacked cast.
Yeah.
It's like them righting the wrongs of like, I guess, David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess the Suicide Squad by James Gunn did, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that your rating is going to be a bit lower than mine.
Not by much, but
mine is 3 out of 5.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It is not the worst Marvel movie.
No,
and anyone that says so, just calm down.
I think that in the theater, because again, I didn't even look at what Rotten Tomatoes score it was before we went in. I try to avoid that because I don't need to know.
Yeah,
for the most part. And then I guessed that it was going to be like mid 60s. I think because I was like, I think people are going to overall enjoy this, and it's going to be really like a kind of a coin flip for the rest of the people. But apparently, it's more of a negative, and then
it's a coin flip for everyone. Apparently,
yeah, it's more of a coin flip for everybody. Which, and for me, it less worked than did, unfortunately. But I still like this is an MCU film. That's how all of them have been for me.
Yeah, and it still has me excited for the return of Captain America, which was teased at the end. But I mean, overall, the film is like, it falls into the same category as the Marvels for me, just for different reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I did rewatch the Marvels, but I don't know if I will for this soon.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah. Anything else, Dad?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Well, that has been our review of Captain America: Brave New World. It's currently in theaters. I'm not advertising it. I'm just telling you that. If you want to wait and watch it on Disney Plus,
you can also do that.
That's probably the move.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to try something new. Last week and the week before, we were recasting some of our favorite movies, also to give a gut punch to each other.
Yeah. It was that was the only reason.
Now we said something at the end of that was like, why don't we just fix bad movies?
Yeah.
And we couldn't think of a film that needed more fixing than Jurassic World Dominion.
Oof, yeah.
So I don't know if you guys remember this movie, but it's not great.
No.
It is the final chapter of the Jurassic Park saga, despite the fact Gareth Edwards has one coming out this summer, which looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I'm interested.
And it features a return of the entire surviving original main cast of Jurassic Park, except for the kids.
Yep.
And they unite with the cast of the Jurassic World films that we've picked up over the time, although I don't think Justice Smith was in this one.
No.
So, and it features the return of Colin Trevorrow, who directed the first one and originally was not going to do the third one after he was fired from Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah, lost his job.
He got another one.
Yeah.
So, let's start off. What's wrong with this movie?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
To me, I think the moment you mentioned this, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how stupid this was. The locusts.
Yes.
This film opens with like the world is being wiped out
By locusts.
Which
Which doesn't make any sense because the previous film ended with the Jurassic World dinosaurs escaping into the main continent of
the
North
United
America.
States. Yeah.
And they're in Las Vegas. Last shot's a pterodactyl in Vegas on the Strip. It's like, oh my God. And Jeff Goldblum says, "Welcome to Jurassic World." And it's like, this is what they've been building.
This is what we were promised.
This is cool.
But I hated Fallen Kingdom. That was what it was called, right?
Yeah, I actually liked that one.
I could.
It was the last good movie in this series. I like it more than the first one.
I think that the last good film in this series is Jurassic Park.
I mean, yeah.
I don't
That's
think
the last great film in the series.
I mean, yeah, anyway, back to this though. No, I do think we were promised a Jurassic World and there was zero deliverance on that.
Yes.
I do still think that you keep the mix of the old and new cast because I do think that worked for me for the most part.
Yes.
I think that's a lot of where keeping it would end.
I actually don't know if I love the way that it implemented the old cast because
I'm not saying that you implement them the same way. I more just like that they're there.
Sure. I think the issue that they fall into in the film is that there's absolutely no stakes.
Yeah.
Because I see Chris Pratt on a ladder that's shaking and there's a dinosaur about to eat him. I know Chris Pratt is not going to fall into the dinosaur's mouth and die because that's the nature of these films. But when you bring in these legacy characters, it's like it would be interesting to see them do some form of sacrifice because within the hero's journey, they would fall into the wise old traveler category. I actually really think that Jeff Goldblum should have been that in this.
Yeah.
And he's not.
Well, I think
where's
more
the
Sam
sacrifice? Well, either one.
Neill.
I was about to say we have more Jeff Goldblum in the series, but that's actually not true because they both had their standalone sequel to Jurassic Park already.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting though because you have Jeff Goldblum, whose character, it's Ian Malcolm, right? That's his character.
Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, he has always been the arrogant, he's always been the arrogant kind of bad boy of the science world in a weird way, right?
He's a chaos theorist.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And so it would have been interesting to see him actually be the one to sacrifice himself. I would agree with you there.
But no one dies.
No one dies and nothing interesting happens.
No, it's like the most dumb resolution and freaking Tim Cook is the villain. What is this?
Yeah. I think that a lot of it.
Tell me that evil complex was not a knockoff of Apple Park.
Yeah.
It was legitimately just Apple's bad.
Yeah. No, 100%. But it was also I would have liked to have seen more about the militarization of the dinosaurs.
Sure.
And I thought that's where we were going to go as well with this and have, dinosaur on dinosaur fights, trying to gain control of the world again. I don't think it should work. I think it ends with, a Jurassic World.
It ends with destruction.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know. There needed to be some sort of wrapping up of these three films that feel so unconnected and incoherent.
This one does feel so drastically separate from the first two.
Yeah.
Say what you will about Fallen Kingdom, but it does feel like a sequel to Jurassic World. Like, it doesn't feel like a separate film.
It feels like a sequel, sure.
This just feels like a reunion special. It was pumped out onto Max.
Yeah.
And it, instead of it being like a real story, they just pumped the entire cast into like a couch and were like, let's talk about it. That's the same vibe that this movie gives.
Yeah.
And I do think it's like some kind of character arc. So I think, keeping Owen Grady, that's his name?
Yes, Owen Grady.
I think keeping Owen Grady is like the main character. Good. I like Chris Pratt in these. I think that, perhaps he's elevated to celebrity status because he's an expert on dinosaur behavior and they're taking over the world, obviously.
Yeah.
And then his activism perhaps gets him into the crosshairs of like issues, and then the old cast comes in, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I think that.
So basically, he would, because we already see Ian Malcolm is that already.
Yes.
So it would be interesting because that's how those two cross.
I think that Ian Malcolm is kind of like, in this story, I want him to be like Obi-Wan almost to Owen. And then you have Neil. I don't remember his actual Alan. I think his name's Alan.
Yeah, Alan Grant.
Alan Grant. I want Grant to be like Yoda, like the second person.
Yeah.
Or if we're going off of the Force Awakens metaphor, like Han Solo, and then Alan is Luke Skywalker, like the one that they need to get to him, but it's like he's gone into the jungle on research and we got to find him. I don't know. Even that's more interesting.
Yeah.
Like just give us something. But
because don't they go back to the park?
No,
I don't even remember what
the dinosaurs are being kept at this like at the company that bought them.
That's right.
And so they're trying to break into there.
Yeah,
that's a good portion of the film
with the clone
child. That was kind of interesting, actually. But it's also not Jurassic Park. Honestly, here's how you make Jurassic Park 6 or Jurassic World 3, depending on who you talk to.
Yep.
This is how you make it interesting. Take a page out of the book of Westworld. Make it like that.
What do you mean?
So, Westworld is an earlier work by Michael Crichton.
Yes.
It was a movie, the only film he ever directed, I believe, or at least the first one. And it's very similar in tone to Jurassic Park, where you have like humanity trying to control something. In this case, it's robots who are sentient, and then they start rebelling against the park.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying like take a page from the TV show's book.
The TV show is the same thing.
I haven't seen the TV show.
Yeah,
I've seen like the first season, but I thought you meant like there was something they were doing between seasons that was like moving in a different direction. That's what I was thinking you were saying.
But I think that the detriment of this is that they don't give any agency towards the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe this is a weird thing, but there is agency given to Blue in both Jurassic World 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And there's a hint of it here, but it's like, I think like perhaps exploring the sentience of the dinosaurs would be interesting because perhaps they have learned communication or they've learned like things and they have understanding, but they can't communicate, similar to Groot, right? And I don't know, something like that would be more interesting than the locusts. Like they're evolving.
Well, here's the problem, right? Is we had a great trilogy that did this already in the decade, and the Planet of the Apes did this perfectly.
Yes, I concur.
And that's what this third film should have been. Was basically a big time jump.
Yeah.
And then a big time jump. They're having to readjust to the world, which they slightly do, but a lot of it seems to have gone on, right? Actually, I feel like a lot of the dinosaurs have been caught already.
Yes, it wasn't like as big of a deal. There are some. There's the short film which I don't think I've actually seen, but there is called Camp Cretaceous or something. Whatever it is, maybe that's the cartoon. Either way, there's a short film of like a family that has gone camping and they're being attacked by a dinosaur raptor, I think.
See, that would be cool.
That's a short film that's connected to this, I think also directed by Trevorrow, but like that would be so much better. And it's like, again, playing with this idea of like, oh, I can't go into the woods because there might be raptors. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I think something that the original films got very well, and Jurassic World 1 does, is that you have kids being centric to the story because that helps you see the wonder of there being dinosaurs again. But when it's so centric on adults as your main characters, I think that you lose some of that in the sauce because it's like more concerned with being an action film.
Sure. I do think that I would agree with everything you just said. I think that the first Jurassic Park film, and again, it's hard to live up to it. You're talking about Spielberg.
He did make The Lost World.
He did, which I don't hate The Lost World.
I do. Well, I do.
It's all downhill after the first one, like I've said.
Yeah.
But he balances tone so well because yes, there is that wonder, but then there's also, it's terrifying in moments.
Yes.
And I feel like the Jurassic World films have completely abandoned the horror side of it. Like I don't ever feel like the stakes are gone, like you said, and we'd have to bring stakes back, and them not being enclosed anywhere, all the dinosaurs out would be awesome. So I think that's what it comes down to right now for me. It's like the dinosaurs are out, and then you're battling them in nature, and it's a losing battle.
Right. No, I think that like you Who Let the Dinosaurs Out was a great idea. Do we know where the new one is falling within all of this?
I don't know.
Either way, they can't fix Dominion by making another movie.
No.
But yeah, I think that like something that ties it all together. I really like the idea of Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I don't know if you're familiar with that specifically. But that is the one where after like the civilization has been overtaken by said apes and whatnot, there's a society underground, which we kind of got a hint of that in Kingdom that recently came out. But they worship like a nuclear missile, and they're planning on using it to like eradicate the apes. And then they end up blowing up the planet at the end of the film, and then everyone dies. And I think that that is so depressing, but that's like the only way I really see like really making a satisfying ending to Jurassic Park is like, you know, the hubris of humanity destroys themselves yet again, and then the dinosaurs somehow survive after like the nuke or something.
Yeah.
You know? Like that's it. There's nothing else to do.
No, I agree. So let's wrap it all up then. Let's kind of give a more succinct, like,
okay,
this is the blueprint, right?
Sure.
So we're going to abandon locusts. We've said this.
No locusts.
We are going to continue where they promised at the end of Fallen Kingdom, which was a Jurassic World.
Yes.
There's no park to hold them.
No.
And where else were we? What else we said? We said
I think incorporating the other characters as mentors / guides to Owen's character arc in this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then I think really showing the hubris of humanity, and they think that they can control an evolving species that is growing sentience.
Which and yes, because the problem is that they've been teasing this for
since the first movie.
The whole first film.
They opened the door.
And yeah, we just that's all abandoned. We haven't even really brought up Claire though. I feel like
I forgot. I don't think she really does anything in this movie.
No, which is a problem.
It is a problem. Let's give her something to do.
Let's have her direct.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I would watch a Bryce Dallas Howard directed Jurassic World film.
Sure. Yeah, I would watch any Jurassic World film actually, but that's
true. Yeah,
I like dinosaurs a lot, but
yeah, no, I've sat through 6 of these, and I only really like one of them.
Yeah, same.
You know,
the first one is just magical. And it's hard to get away from that.
I was telling I always say this because every time we worked at the movie theater for a long time, and I worked there for 6 years, I think, maybe 7.
You were there for 7. I was there for 4.
Yeah, and every time we played Jurassic Park on the big screen, I would just be like, I haven't seen it in a while. Let me go watch it, and I would just be like mesmerized from the jump.
Yeah,
and I always forget how good it is until I rewatch it, and then I'm like, this is it.
It is a fantastic time. I have a similar feeling. I know you don't like Zemeckis, but I have a similar feeling about Back to the Future. Like every time I watch it, it just hits exactly the same, and I laugh the same. And it's like, it's one of those movies that somehow has never gotten old. And I think Jurassic Park and Back to the Future somehow randomly sit on the same plane for me, where it's like, oh,
strange. Yeah. I don't know. I need to rewatch Back to the Future. It's been quite a few years, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just marathoned.
I remember liking it. I've always liked Back to the Future. I just don't think I've loved it like you do, obviously.
Well, that was the film that every time it played at the theater, I went and saw it. Because I think we probably played it 2 or 3 times while I worked there. But it plays very well with an audience. Yeah. Unlike Jurassic World Dominion, which did not.
Yeah, so that's our ideas on how to make this film better.
Just make a different movie.
Yeah.
Maybe don't even make the movie. I think that's the best thing to do.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
Just leave it at Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I feel like if we would have stopped at Fallen Kingdom, actually, no, if we would have stopped at Jurassic Park, we would have been all better for it. But
it would have been so much better. It would have been truly astounding in every which way that you can imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but it is A-okay. I don't have any other notes on that.
Me neither.
Which, to be fair, we didn't have notes in the first place on that.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up my Letterboxd on here, but I guess we can talk about what we've been watching unless there's anything else you want to bring up.
No.
Word.
What have I been watching? I haven't watched all that much this week, actually. It's been a slower week.
Yeah, same.
I think I said it last week, but I watched How to Marry a Millionaire last Tuesday. And then I watched Captain America on Thursday.
Yep.
And then I have not really watched anything over the weekend. Been playing video games and reading. And then Monday I watched Silent Waters, which is a Pakistani film. Which I've mentioned last week that I was really struggling to connect with a lot of the films that we've shown in my South Asian female filmmakers class. This one really worked. This was very, very good. I gave this one 4.5 out of 5, which was it was a big surprise considering how the last couple of weeks have gone.
Yeah.
And then today we watched a Marilyn Monroe Western film.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know she did any.
Yeah, it was called, oh shoot, why can't I remember what it's called? River of No Return.
Ooh. Does she get drowned in this by any chance?
No.
Okay. I haven't seen this one. I don't know why I even asked.
It's fine. I don't necessarily love it. It's one of my least favorites of the class so far. There's just a weird sexual assault scene that comes out of nowhere, and then he like weirdly apologizes for it, and they just kind of move on. And that, I don't know, it didn't ruin the whole movie, but I think the rest of the movie is just kind of repetitive.
Sure.
They're riding a raft down the river most of the thing. So, I'm also not a Western guy in general. I should say it is in like the gold rush days is where it like kind of sits in history. But there's some interesting moments. I think Marilyn's very good in it. It's something different from her.
Yeah.
She's not playing the dumb blonde. She definitely has much more agency in this. She's also more serious. It seems like they take her more seriously in this, which is also great. Because I think that's been a lot of my problems with her films so far. So I'm very curious to see, because I should say this is from a Marilyn Monroe class. Doing a class on her this semester. So
fascinating, dare I say.
Yeah.
Well, I've also not watched a ton, but that's kind of been a...
I watch Anyone But You again.
Anyone but you could get it.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
I don't know. I just turn it on in the background while I'm working on stuff because I'm like, yeah, that's something goofy on there.
Yeah, no, it's a goofy good time. I have not logged the most recent thing, but similarly, I've just had a lot going on, so I haven't had time to really watch a lot. So I watched Captain America on Thursday, of course, and then for Valentine's Day, I watched About Time. Fantastic experience as always, although I do think parts of the film didn't resonate as heavily with me this time, and I think perhaps I just feel like towards the beginning, I think the time travel is used kind of nefariously.
Oh, sure.
It's not something I thought about. It's still funny, but it's like, the ending still hits, though. Very heartwarming.
Yeah. I love About Time.
Me too. I usually reference it in pitch decks because I think it's like something that I kind of have leaned towards. You actually watched this with me, and it's on here, so you should log it. The SNL 50th anniversary special.
Oh, interesting.
Which was 3.5 hours of sketches and music. And I would say about an hour of it was actually very good.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, that's about right.
I think that ratio is usually about correct for SNL. About
a third.
1/3 of it's great. And that was cool to see and experience. Although I read a review that was like, the only people that really love what's going on here are the people that are in the room that this means something to. And I kind of agree with that, because
a lot of it was that, yeah.
It wasn't really an anniversary special that, like the way that Doctor Who does it, where it's like for the fans. This was for the people that make the show.
Yeah.
It was very clear.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun with several sketches, specifically Domingo and with the Close Encounters one.
Yes, so funny.
So, yeah. And then Paul McCartney closed out the show. What more can you ask for?
Yeah.
And then I watched Two-Lane Blacktop in my 1970s class. So
what'd you think?
I remember liking it. A lot of the undergraduates that were in the class were complaining about it as soon as we walked out. They're like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen. Which my reaction to that is, you must have not seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you've never seen Tree of Life.
Well, that's not... I would say this was more boring than that. But it's always cool to see a movie that was filmed in North Carolina. Like Two-Lane Blacktop. And James Taylor's in it. Like, what is he doing there? Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, it's good.
I've heard really good things.
Yeah, it's kind of a road movie, but they like filmed stuff literally while they were doing the road trip, so most of it happens in the car. I quite liked it.
Interesting.
And then the reason I've been kind of like not watching as much stuff is because I've been prepping to make something. I'm going to bring that up briefly. Landon and I are collaborating on a film. It's going to be great. It's a sort of musical, so I might give you updates through here. We also may have a week or two off while we're actually filming, but that'll
for sure
be coming
1 week.
Up. For sure one. I don't know how we'll feel the following week either.
Yeah.
But and I think that process of making a TIWWM film is going to be kind of interesting, because we've kind of done it before, but it's like,
this is very different.
This is very different vibes than what we did last time. We worked on a film that included no dialogue, so it was like just actions happening on the beach. We've talked about this a couple times, but the beach film was not a mistake, but it was difficult, and I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, I told him leaving the last day of shooting, I said, if I ever come to you with an idea for a beach film again, you tell me no.
Yeah, so this is kind of the exact opposite. It's a dialogue-heavy, character-driven piece that's really...
Which makes more sense because you wrote it.
Yes, Landon wrote the other one. Yeah. This one's mine, but
it feels like that's it. It feels like when you look at the two things, it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, but it's also not in the same vein as some of the more recent stuff I've made, because it's not a comedy. It has its moments, but it's more so centric around exploring emotions and feelings, which is a bit of a different territory for me, I'd say. Like, I've done it a couple times, but it's not like Peter, where it's the a nudist cult leader, and it's not like Burger Night where they're just cooking burgers. Like, there's a bit more to this one. So I'm excited to like flex muscles in a different direction with film and see what we can concoct out of that. So definitely stay tuned. I think that there will be either nuggets of it or something coming up on YouTube. So
yeah, it's exciting.
It will be. But yeah, that's all we have for you today. So I would love it if you follow us on social media. It's at TIWWM Pod. All the social medias, we're in the microphone. We're on all of them. You can find us. It's great.
Yep.
And if you're there, feel free to reshare our videos. Like our videos, comment, do all those things. Spread the word. The word is to win.
Yeah. All right, bye.